On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence by Dream Theater. There was a little bit of puke in that.
Was it an electric burp?
It was an electric burp.
A little bit of juice to it.
Yeah. Good God. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Bronze Medalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
And we're 2 professional broadcasters that both have an abiding love for heavy metal in all its forms. And we...
Nearly all its forms.
Nearly all its forms. Everybody's got their preferences. But
sure.
We're going to talk about it nonetheless. We skipped a week last week.
Because of the fair.
Because of the fair, the illustrious North Dakota State Fair. I was out there working it all week, and I think Wednesday especially would have been a pretty bad night to record a podcast for me.
You were pretty hashed.
I don't know what specifically it was. I think it was the middle of the week.
Sure. And
I hadn't given up yet.
You hadn't given up yet.
Yeah.
Oh, you were still going full force.
I was still holding out hope. You know, like there's it's reminding me of there's a scene in Band of Brothers where Lieutenant Spears goes up to Private Blythe and
says, "I'm Brittany, bitch."
Yes.
Okay.
He's talking. Blythe is kind of he's a little shell shocked. He's a little jumpy. And he hasn't been fighting.
Right.
He doesn't really want to fight. And Spears tells him like the only way that you're going to function as a soldier is by accepting the fact that you're already dead. You're already dead. Just accept that, and you'll be able to function as a soldier should. And on Wednesday, hadn't accepted that.
It took till Thursday. Was it Thursday or was it Friday?
Yeah, Thursday was good. Thursday was good. Friday was fine as well. To make matters worse, because it was out there at the fair, out in the sun, out in the heat. Well, not really in the sun. We had a tent and everything, but out, but
the sun was affecting you.
All the smells, all the people, all the noises.
It's overwhelming.
Pure sensory overload. To make matters worse, on Sunday night when I got back, already 2 days out of the fair, I had at that point, and Saturday was a 6-hour affair. I had gotten back. And at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, after I had attended my nephew's baptism, I noticed that there's this patch of really itchy skin on my chest.
Right.
And I start scratching. I'm like, what the fuck? And I take a look at it, and it looks like hives. And I'm like, I don't get hives. This is ridiculous. What
Interesting.
Is this? So the next day, it's like, okay, well, this is still itchy. What the hell is going on here? And then Monday night, I was getting into the shower and went, oh, wait,
gonorrhea.
I know what this is.
Yeah,
it's gonorrhea. No, I was like, I know what this is. I've had this before. I have fucking shingles. So I wake up extra early and spoil the fact that one of the plus sides of working at the fair is you get to sleep in.
Sure.
And so I spoiled that for myself because I had to get up early so I could go to the walk-in clinic and make sure it was shingles and get something to treat it. It was shingles, and I went and got myself some breakfast, and it's been an experience. I caught it early, of course. Like basically, if you have a rash that shows up, doesn't go away, and it itches really badly, and it's little bumps and whatnot, go to the doctor.
Right.
Like that's why old people, like it gets so bad for old people is because they're like, oh, it's just a rash, it'll go away. And then a week later, it's extremely painful, and that's when they finally decide to go to the doctor. Like both times I've had shingles, because I had shingles 3 years ago now, or maybe it was 4 years ago, but both times I've had shingles, like, wow, this rash is really not going away, and I don't know what this is. I guess I'm going to go to the doctor. And both times, it was only a day or two after it showed up, and they're like, yeah, this is shingles. You good thing for you for coming in, because it won't get very bad.
What are you putting on it?
I'm not putting anything on it. I'm taking medication, an antiviral called acyclovir, I believe is what it's called, acyclovir, something like that.
The famous Paladin?
Yes,
Yeah.
the famous Paladin acyclovir. And it's just an antiviral medication that apparently helps reduce some of the itching and just helps you get over it faster because it's a virus. So it's going to do its thing until your body decides, no, I've had enough. So it just, I think, helps to speed things along a little bit. Other than that, I have been taking some supplements that I probably should have been taking anyway. And my mom suggested, it was like, here, take this shit. And so I've got some vitamins and stuff on top of that because I really should have been taking a multivitamin anyway because I live like an animal.
Well, yeah.
So
as man once said, you eat like a campground raccoon.
Yeah, basically. Other things that happened with me, I went to the lake on Saturday, which might be why my thigh hurts so much right now. I don't know. I've been like, my left thigh really, really hurts today.
It's like a muscle pain, right?
Yeah, like every time I have to stand up, it hurts a lot. So I don't know what the deal is with that. I went tubing, but it wasn't like super intense or anything. We didn't get thrown around. We were behind a pontoon. We weren't going very fast. So I don't know what the deal was, but yeah, it hurts a lot today, and I don't know. My body's falling apart. Exciting. What?
You really missed an opportunity here for your delivery for the last 5 minutes to be. I got shingles and my thigh.
I am basically a 23 just proving my own point I was about to make. I'm basically a 23-year-old old man. I've got Jack disease apparently.
Jack disease, yeah.
Yeah. But exciting music news, by the way. A new Cattle Decapitation album coming out. What?
Heard the one track already, and it's awesome. Or at least it was a sample of the track.
A snippet of the first track. It's coming out on Black Friday, and it's called Death Atlas, which is a kick-ass name, and it's the cover looks really cool. And I've been watching videos from their engineer, who's started a YouTube channel, and he's been talking about the gear and everything that they've been putting in, and all of his production techniques and little snippets here and there of songs and whatnot, and what each of the band members is doing. There's going to be one coming out about Travis's vocal gear and stuff, so I'm excited to see that because they've done everything else so far. But yeah, Cattle Decapitation, fantastic death metal band, and I'm really, really excited because since it's coming out on Black Friday, that's perfectly poised for the first week of Death Metal December. Perfectly poised for Death Metal December, so I'm really happy about the timing.
And this will be one of those rare occasions where it's new to both of us.
Yes, yeah. We'll both be able to get to experience it for me. By the time we get to recording, it'll probably be the 7th or 8th time. Sure, but yeah, that'll be nice and something nice and fresh and really new to talk about. Yeah, that's been me over the last 2 weeks. It's just been like I've got 2 days off next week, Monday and Tuesday, so I'm just gonna, I don't know, do fucking nothing whatsoever. I was going to go to a Renaissance fair here in North Dakota that got
in Regent.
Yeah, in Regent. You might have heard about it on the national news on the day of this recording.
Today, yeah.
Not the Renaissance Festival, but the town itself was a part of a feature. But yeah, that got canceled. The Ren Fair there got canceled, so not going to that anymore. Still going to Minneapolis next month, but yeah, disappointed about that. But whatever.
Yeah, what can you do? What, you don't just show up and have your own Renaissance fair?
Yeah,
I'll just be alone.
Just show up with my friends and just be like, hey. Like, and we're all still in costume. What we were gonna do is like we were gonna walk around there, and then we were going to try and organize amongst ourselves. It wouldn't have been hard, but we were going to have a D&D game that night.
Nice.
At a friend of ours' place who lives either in or near Regent.
There's only 100 people in Regent.
Yeah, it's not a very big town.
No.
But we were going to try maybe a one shot or something like that, or maybe the campaign we're playing right now over Roll20 or something. But that didn't end up happening. Or it's not going to end up happening.
That's not going to happen, yeah.
I had a character death in D&D.
Yeah.
Died horribly. And then last night we were playing, and my replacement character also almost died instantly. So
did die ultimately?
No, he did not die.
Okay.
He almost died. Like, I got knocked down within the first couple of rounds of combat, and then failed a death saving throw before I got healed. And then I botched like multiple attacks and hit my own party members. And so I just used Misty Step to back up about 30 feet and was just like, I'm just going to hang out back here for a round and figure some shit out. Because I'm playing a paladin, and I've never played a paladin before, so I'm still kind of figuring out the guts of how the class works.
A cyclovir.
Yeah, his name is a cyclovir. That's not true.
Broke into an existential crisis during a battle.
Yeah. It's a very Lovecraftian campaign, so that actually that works.
It's fitting.
It's fitting. Anything you want to talk about last couple of weeks here?
I did get to go to the fair one day.
Yeah. Well, you were out. You came and visited a different time.
I did.
Remember.
My 8-year-old and I did the slingshot.
Yes, that's right.
Which is the big. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these at a fair or whatnot. It's where you two people sit in a thing and then they launch you several hundred feet into the air.
Yeah, still tethered, thankfully.
Yeah, no.
on bungee cables and whatnot.
It's a suicide machine.
Thousands of people die every year.
Thousands of fatalities at the North Dakota State Fair.
The two biggest killers of human beings every year. Yeah. Number 1, malaria. Number 2,
the slingshot.
State fair slingshots. The two biggest killers. See, that slingshot is a pain in the ass because our tent is right next to it.
Right.
And so whenever the mics would be open, that's when they decided to set it off.
Horn.
Yeah, and blow off this big air horn.
I used that in my favor. I incorporated that into my show when I was out there. I mean, I'd be talking and all of a sudden, and then I'd say, "Ooh, excuse me."
Oh my God, that's pretty good. Oh, it looks nasty out the window there.
What do you mean?
From my perspective, it's very dark.
We're under a thunderstorm watch.
Well, yeah, I saw that, but I hadn't seen any of the clouds or anything until just now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's nifty. Yeah, it was, I don't know, big couple of weeks.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah. I'm so tired still.
Yeah, so am I. I mean, I looked up at the clock. It's like 6. I'm going to be at Kale's at 7. I'm just going to sit here and watch SpongeBob with the kids. And next thing you know, I'm being awakened by my cat. Like, what? Oh, shit, I got to go. Yeah, stepped on my balls.
Are you sure it was your cat and not Gary?
Gary!
All right, Tom Kenny.
All right. Down.
Okay, do we want to talk about the album?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we this week listened to 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence by Dream Theater.
Or as I was under the impression it was 6 degrees of autoerotic asphyxiation.
For some reason.
I don't know why,
yeah. 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence by Dream Theater. If you don't know about Dream Theater, they are a progressive rock / progressive metal band. Mm-hmm. They were founded by 3 of their members, one of whom is no longer with the band. It was, at the time, it was Mike Portnoy, John Myung, and John Petrucci, and they gathered some more musicians around them. The lineup
over time.
The lineup would change a little bit. The first edition that would really make the difference for them would be
Labrie.
James Labrie, and I believe 1993. 91. When and then they put out their first big album, which was Images and Words.
Yes, which is awesome.
Yeah, and it was the first one to feature James Labrie, and lineup would remain relatively stable until they changed keyboardists in 1999 to Jordan Rudess, who is also still with the band. The only lineup change from then on would be Mike Portnoy leaving in 2010 to be replaced with Mike Mangini, but the core lineup of Jordan Rudess, James Labrie, and the 2 Johns and Mike was kind of that is Dream Theater to me.
Yes,
the albums with all of those guys together, that is the most definitive era of the band. And this would be the second album of that era after my personal favorite Dream Theater album, and one that was talked on the podcast about before.
Some years ago.
Some years ago.
Yeah.
At like a year and a half ago.
Okay, so before I got here.
Before you got here.
Just before I got here.
Yes. We talked about Metropolis Part 2, Scenes from Memory, which came out in 99. That is my favorite Dream Theater album. And this is the one that would follow up. Came out in 2002. And it would be surprisingly only their second like concept album.
Really?
Like Metropolis was their first concept album, and they've kind of been going with that ever since. Although I think their most recent album doesn't have a particular concept, as I understand. I've only given a cursory listen to that one, even though it's gotten really great reviews. I think probably some of the best they've had since Mike left. But yeah, it's 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. Initial thoughts, I guess, from you.
Initial thoughts. Well, this would be I think the third band that I was introduced that would be qualifying as a progressive metal band.
Okay. What were the first two?
The first two would have been Fate's Warning back in the middle 1980s.
Okay.
A band called Watchtower.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of them?
Not really, no.
And then of course Images and Words.
Yeah.
Our drummer in the band that I was in got a copy of it and went, "What's this shit? Oh my god!"
It's fucking drum porn.
Yeah.
Basically. Any Dream Theater played by Mike Portnoy is drum pornography, essentially.
Yeah, essentially.
I mean, Mike Mangini's great. He's a very good drummer, but you're stepping into some
big shoes,
some very big drummer's loafers there.
Yeah. He wore loafers when he drummed?
Well, I don't know about loafers, but
penny
like
loafers or
sneakers or something. Like I know drummers usually like to wear very comfortable shoes.
Yeah, like tennis shoes.
Yeah. But very big shoes to step in. But yeah, Mike Portnoy. If you don't understand the reputation of Dream Theater, this is a group of musicians that could pretty much all be described as virtuosos, with the possible exception of James LaBrie.
Yeah, well, he's got a great voice.
James
he
LaBrie
can do a lot of stuff with that voice.
James LaBrie is a very good singer. He's very talented, and he's pretty versatile. But it's difficult to live up to the rest of the band, unless you would be like someone like why can I never remember his name from Faith No More?
Mike Patton?
Yeah, unless you're like a Mike Patton or something like that, who is such a crazy, insane range and so versatile and stuff like that. Like it's hard to live up to the rest of the musicians when you're simply a good singer.
Right.
Because like Mike Portnoy regularly makes lists as greatest drummers of all time. John Petrucci regularly makes lists as best guitarists or best metal guitarists of all time. John Myung similarly for bassists, and Jordan Rudess for keyboardists. And you said something yesterday that has stuck with me, is like a Dream Theater album is like an exercise in competitive musicianship.
Yep, that was my impression.
Like they're all working together. It's all forming a cohesive song, but you can't help but feel at sometimes like they're all trying to one-up each other, especially Jordan and Petrucci.
Right.
They have sort of this thing of like any long, prolonged noodling middle section of a Dream Theater song, of which there are many.
Yeah.
Any of those is going to be Petrucci laying down some riffs and going kind of nuts with it and doing some solo, and then it's like a call and response of Jordan Rudess on the keyboard, like doing just as wacky things.
Yeah, I noticed actually a while ago that their songs would be great 3.5-minute songs, but are also really great 15-minute songs.
Yeah. And I think like 6 Degrees is one of the in terms of song length and in terms of just general length, it is one of the more I don't want to say laborious albums of theirs, but it is certainly I believe their second longest, as I understand. I think The Astonishing, which is their second most recent album, that one clocked in as the longest album of theirs. But this one comes in at 96 minutes 17 seconds.
Right.
So it is a very long affair.
Yeah.
It was their first double album. Before then, their record label was like, no, we're not going to put out a double album. Anytime they would be like, double album? We want to do a double album so we don't have to cut songs or anything. And finally Elektra was like, yeah, okay,
Fine.
here, we'll give you a double album. Your Dream Theater now.
Yeah, I know, and my kids were kind of pissed about this.
Really?
This week, yeah. Well, because it's 96 minutes,
Yeah.
and
So Dad's gonna be.
so dad's doing all busy work. Dad, I want to tell you about my day. No. Dream Theater.
Dream Theater time. What was the reason you neglected your children? I was listening to Dream Theater. Oh, I get it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I understand. But yeah, they certainly. If you want to use the term noodling,
Oh yeah,
this album is a wonderful pasta.
yes, it's a noodle salad.
This is a beautiful, beautiful pasta.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is it a rotini? Would you maybe it's not a macaroni, that'd be too plain.
Yeah, macaroni's too simple. This is a really, really well put together. Like I was going to say spaghetti. God,
Spaghetti?
what the fuck? Because
You couldn't think of the word spaghetti.
I know.
All right.
I'm sorry, but
It
yeah,
happens.
this is very well put together spaghetti. Like spaghetti as in and of itself,
Okay.
is always good.
Sure,
it's
it's
hard to go
simple.
wrong. It's hard to go wrong with spaghetti.
True.
But you can do a lot of things with it.
It's the sauce.
You can add a lot of flavors to it.
There's
And
a lot
the
of flavor.
sauce and the meat and the mushrooms and all kinds of things. And the quality of the Parmesan that you put on it
Sure.
and whatnot. It's
maybe a meat sauce, maybe sometimes a mushroom
Yes.
sauce.
I totally didn't just say spaghetti because that's the only pasta I'm very familiar with.
Sure.
But yeah, it is a very, very long album. But they do it well, is the thing.
Oh, they do it great.
I think so many other bands, if they were to try to achieve 96 minutes, it would just be unbearable. But Dream Theater manages to always keep it entertaining and interesting because they have a very kind of theatrical, almost corny style in a sense
Not
where it's
corny in the band. Corny,
not Jonathan Davis is not
No.
he's not involved in here anywhere.
No.
But like it's they do have a very sort almost Broadway kind of style. Although I feel like that's
a lot of
just,
showmanship.
It's a lot of prog metal in general.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh yeah. Of course.
That was a big part of their like the theatricality of their performance was really a big part of the tour that they did for Metropolis Part 2. They did this massive tour where they would play a half hour of just songs from Metropolis, and then they made a short film that would play in the background, synced up to them, and like all sorts of things. And they did a huge show in New York. Again, massive affair. They hired a choir to sing because there were like soul sort of very soulful, almost like Southern Baptist choirs in the album. So they hired a choir to sing that live. They paid actors to be there live and act it out on the stage. The performance was so ridiculously like big that Mike Portnoy collapsed as soon as it was done. He walked off stage and just passed out.
Was he still drinking at the time?
He was. That was actually the occurrence of his last drink.
Really?
Was the final date of their Metropolis Part Tour. Their Metropolis Part Tour.
It's like
That's what they should have called it.
They've missed an opportunity.
Yeah. No, it was the last date there, which I assume was the same show. And he was apparently all hopped up on energy drinks and had been drinking some alcohol. And so they had to call like an ambulance basically to come take care of him. I think they carried him out of the venue, essentially.
But he made it through.
He made it through.
He's a trooper.
And speaking of Mike Portnoy and drinking, that is a big part of the first song on the album, which is called Glass Prison.
Glass Prison, right.
So Glass Prison is the first of 5 songs that comprises almost an album in and of itself that is spread across 5 other albums. So it's called the 12-Step Suite, and it was each song is a certain number of steps in a 12-step program. And so this was the first couple of steps. And thankfully, the suite got completed before Mike Portnoy sort of left the band and was kind of he wanted to do other things. He wanted to take a break.
They
went
didn't.
to perform, and they didn't. He went to perform with Avenged Sevenfold and help them finish their album after their drummer died. And then later he expressed interest in rejoining the band, but they had already hired Mike Mangini, and they're like, sorry, no.
Sorry. Yeah.
And so that happened, but he finished the suite, and he's actually performed that live in its entirety.
Really?
With other bands.
Right.
And I think that's a very interesting concept because Mike Portnoy was a very integral part of the band. He wrote a lot of songs, wrote a lot of lyrics. Of course, he was the drummer. So he's a very, very important part of the band. And their sound, I wouldn't say has changed too much because, of course, you've still got most of the other core musicians. But there's something about it where it's like, man, I really, really like Portnoy's drumming. It's different to not have him there.
It's very specific.
Yeah. So the basic concept of this album is lots of different forms of inner turbulence, as the title would suggest, different forms of mental illness, those sorts of things. In specifics, the last song, which is 42 minutes long.
Yeah, and by the way, when you listen to it on Amazon Music, which I did, it's not one song.
Yeah, it's the same on Spotify. They split it up into 6 tracks.
Right.
But it is supposed to be one continuous piece, and there are repeating motifs and that sort of thing. That is where they get more into the specifics of like, okay, this song is about this part is about this part is about this. The first 5 songs are about different stuff. Of course, Glass Prison is alcoholism. The next song, I don't have the track listing for the rest of it. Where is it at? Oh no, I don't have the rest of the track. I didn't print off enough sheets. Get your phone out, OJ.
Get my phone out.
Wait, I do have it actually.
Oh, you do have it.
Yeah, they do. They did like a song by song thing on Wikipedia.
Okay.
So Blind Faith is one of the first songs, or I think the first song. Or wait, no, never mind. So it is. It is one of not all that many, especially at this point in the band's history, of songs that feature lyrics written by James LaBrie. James would usually contribute to lyrics, but he usually didn't write all of the lyrics. And so this was a song written entirely by him, lyrically, which is just about questioning religious belief, that sort of thing.
Right.
Misunderstood. They don't say what the concept of that one is. Only the interesting tidbit that John Petrucci wrote and played the guitar solo, then he reversed it and then learned how to play the reversed version of the guitar solo. And then after he recorded that, he reversed it again. And that's what's on the album. And apparently the technique was also used by George Harrison on the Beatles song I'm Only Sleeping.
Yep. John, I'm Only Sleeping, yeah.
Yeah. The next one is called The Great Debate, which is
That's an interesting song.
Yeah, is one of the very few like politically motivated Dream Theater songs that I'm aware of.
But they're talking about genetic engineering. Partially
in a sense. Yeah. It came out around the time of the sort of the controversial decision by, I believe, President Bush to put the kibosh on the harvesting
stem cells
of fetal stem cells. And so it was meant to be sort of a neutral stance, talking about both sides. There's a refrain in there from James LaBrie, which is like, "Are you justified in taking life to save life?" But they certainly, they give both sides of the art. It's like, my son is paralyzed, and these stem cells might help him, and that sort of thing. And it was written while that was all happening. It was 2002, so that was still very fresh on people's minds, and it was something that they wanted to talk about. And it's a very interesting song. It's also one of the more aggressive songs.
Yeah.
There's a couple more that come in a little bit later, but it is one of the heavier songs on the album, definitely. And Glass Prison also has a lot of heavier moments as well.
Yes.
Dream Theater tends to do that, where they sort of sprinkle kind of the heavier stuff in with the more mainline sort of prog rock fare that you would have. The next one is I talked about Misunderstood already. Disappear.
Very beautiful song.
Yeah, very beautiful, just about death. Another James LaBrie one. It was originally called Move On. If they put out a cassette edition of this, that song's entirely omitted from the cassette.
Really? Why?
Time?
Oh, I suppose, yeah. You have
You're
to.
putting a 96-minute album on a cassette.
I've seen it done, though.
I suppose.
I've actually seen all of The Wall on a cassette, on one cassette. But that's a double album right there.
I suppose, yeah. By the way, with a great debate, there were some references there, or there was a line there that says "conflict at ground zero." It was based on lyrics in the chorus, but they changed some of the context around that because while they were working on the song,
9/11 happened.
Yeah, and they were in Manhattan at the time.
Jeez.
They were in the studio in Manhattan when the attacks happened, and so they changed that a little bit. And a similar thing happened with one of the DVD release of their final show of the Metropolis tour was live in New York. And it was a version of the Heart from their first album.
Oh, sure, yeah.
The Heart on the cover of there, transposed with a picture of the New York skyline. The Twin Towers were on that, and it came out on September 11th. Wow. Just like an extraordinary amount of coincidences with the band and that event. Besides them being from New York and living in Long Island and stuff like that,
It was a very personal thing for them.
Yeah. So the sixth song is the 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. That is the 42-minute long affair there.
Yeah.
And they each, 5 of them have different subjects. The first one is just Jordan Rudess doing his thing for about 6 minutes. Because the whole song was actually sort of taken from the idea of what became Overture. And they're like, what if we expand on this and sort of stretch it out into an album of its own, essentially. Sure. And so Overture was a piece that Jordan had been working on for a while. There was actually what I'm pretty sure is a tiny little snippet of it on the last song of Metropolis. In sort of there's a cinematic piece at the end of it where it's, you hear the main character walking into a room and turning on a record, and it sounds like parts from Overture. So the next song is called About to Crash. It's about a girl with either bipolar disorder or manic depressive disorder.
It's not about diabetes.
It's not about diabetes.
All right.
It is indeed not about diabetes. War Inside My Head is probably the most aggressive song on the album, and that is about post-traumatic stress disorder. That is James LaBrie adds some great distortion to his voice and sort of gets he gets sort of a James Hetfield type thing going.
Yeah.
And then the next one is called The Test That Stumps Them All. It's about sort of an early schizophrenia patient, like the early horrible treatments for schizophrenia that people would undergo, and being locked away in a mental institution and electroshock therapy and stuff like that. One of the few instances that I can recall of swearing in a Dream Theater song. It's like the smell of sweat and shit steaming through the night. It's like I remember hearing James LaBrie say shit, and I was like, James. Yeah. It's like I can't think of other parts where they swear, even though there is always the very awkward part that I get to if I'm listening to Metropolis in public. There's a song in there that contains about a 2-minute long sequence of there's riffing going on, and then in the background the sounds of passionate lovemaking. Passionate and surprisingly ominous lovemaking. And it's always like, all right, when's this part going to be over? I know I'm wearing headphones. I know other people can't hear, but this is still awkward.
I'm in public.
I feel like I'm listening to porn right now. I mean, for me, it kind of is porn, I guess, because you got John doing his thing. And,
sure, it's guitar
yeah,
porn.
Yeah, it's musical and auditory porn, I guess. So that was song number 4. Song number 5 is called Goodnight Kiss. That one is about grief, but more specifically a mother losing her young daughter and kind of dealing with that and lashing out at people. There's Solitary Shell, which is speculated to be either about a person with autism or a person with schizoid personality disorder. I'm gonna call it right now. It's my favorite song on the album.
That is yours.
I don't know why. It gets to me. I don't know why.
It's a very personal song.
I guess in a way, because they're talking about a guy who later on spends a lot of time alone and stuff like that. Like, yeah.
So why would you relate to that?
No, because I'm a social, I don't really. I'm a social butterfly. I spend a lot of time out in the world and talking with people.
Nope.
Yeah. Then there's a reprise for About to Crash, which sort of picks up where the first part of that left off. And goes through a couple more of the depressive and manic episodes. And then Losing Time is the crescendo. And the album comes to a very, very epic end. So that's sort of a deep dive into this album. I felt like I had to do it because it's Dream Theater. You gotta kind of dive headfirst into Dream Theater and really get it, really dig into it, because there's so much meat
on these noodles.
It's a very meaty sauce on this beautiful prog metal spaghetti.
Would you say it's a hamburger or sausage based sauce?
Hamburger.
You mean hamburger bake?
Hamburger. Okay. It's very wholesome and filling, but it's not too greasy.
Yes, true. Also, it would be the 93%.
Yeah, it's a 93%. So now we could get to our usual stuff that we do. So, do you think this album slaps?
Do I think it slaps?
Yeah, it's such a complicated question.
It is very complicated. I mean, there are places where it slaps. It's just, it's too complicated to. I mean, this is not something I could imagine moshing to. I can't.
Yeah. That's going by that being my usual categorization for whether or not something slaps. I would have to say probably not.
Yeah.
But there are parts where it's like maybe, because I imagine like War Inside My Head and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
They would play that. They would certainly play that live to crowds, because they found that like crowd reactions were usually a bit more energetic to their heavier songs, which actually gave them the idea for their next album. They're like, we're going to make something darker and heavier. But
like the sky right now.
Yeah, the little ominous.
It's getting darker and heavier out there.
Little ominous. But yeah, I don't know if I can really say it slaps. It's like there are times where, and it's also hard to say it slaps because you can't keep up with the beat.
No, right.
Because the beat is so complicated. So yeah, I guess it won't. I won't say it slaps. Score. I didn't quite get actually to finishing my notes here, but I do have a couple of scores on hand on their Wikipedia page for the album. That's not the right page. Here we go. So AllMusic gave it a. Was that a fucking 5? No, it's okay. It's a 4 out of 5. I was like, is that a 5 out of 6? Who the fuck rates things out of 6? It's 5 out of 6 from AllMusic. Entertainment Weekly gave it a B. Rolling Stone called it favorable. And there is a website called 411mania.com listed on Wikipedia that gives it 8.5 stars out of 10. So I think it's sort of the usual stuff for a positively rated album. Of course, you're always going to have people who don't like it quite as much and rate it lower, but then there are people who love it. So it usually ends up at about 89, 92%, something like that.
And with the internet, anytime you see something that's rated like at 100%, that's suspicious. There's something, yeah, only 2 people rated this, and they were in the band.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to question that sort of thing.
Right.
So what was your favorite song? I mentioned that Solitary Shell was my favorite.
Solitary Shell. I have to say the Great Debate. So is the one that really hooked me. It's a really good
song.
Yeah, very good song.
What'd you like about? I mean, we talked about what you like about it. I guess it's just it's a very dynamic song. Too.
Very very dynamic. I like the subject matter. I like the fact that I actually caught myself in places like arguing with it.
Okay, yeah.
Like, wait, what are you saying? No, I get it. I see what you're getting at here.
They're just playing devil's advocate in a sense of like this is one side, this is the other side,
right?
And there are points where it's like the issue in and of itself is something where you can be like, yeah, okay, I get why people are uncomfortable with this. Like it's like that's sort of my stance on abortion. It's like I'm not going to tell anybody what to do with their body, but it's like you gotta admit on some level for me at least, I have to admit to myself that on some level I'm not entirely comfortable with the idea. But it's not my choice, so I'm not going to tell people what to do. And it was sort of the thing with stem cells, but then you can also, of course, make the argument. It's like, well, if abortion is legal and you can get this out of that, why not do it and save lives?
Right, it's a single cell, and they blanket. I mean, technically, every cell in your body could be a stem cell,
or it was a stem cell at one point. That's how stem cells work. That's what they do. But yeah, no, it's a very, very interesting song. And for a while, when I would listen to this album, I would skip it because it made me mildly uncomfortable for a little while before I was like, no, this is just a really good song. Just listen to it. It's fine. Because I didn't want to think. It made me think, damn it. I don't want my music to make me think. I want to just be drums. Oh, yeah. It's basically describing Creed, I think. Or like Disturbed or something.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I really like, I talked a little bit, I really like Solitary Sheriff.
Yep.
Solitary
Sheriff? Is that after she divorced Sonny? Is that...
But, well, you know, she'll finally find out if she believes in life after love.
I really don't think she's strong enough.
God damn it.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right. What medal do you want to give this album?
I'm going to give it... I'll give it a silver medal.
Okay.
It's definitely not way above a bronze.
Yeah.
And almost a gold for me.
Yeah. I have to agree with you there. Mostly on the grounds that I don't like it as much as Metropolis.
Sure.
And so I feel like I have to for me, if I'm rating it on a scale of Dream Theater albums, it's like Metropolis is alone at the top. It's a gold, and then everything else is like varying grades of silver.
Right. I noticed that
varying carats of silver.
As you were talking about this over the last however long, you had to reference Metropolis a lot.
Well, yeah, because it's the only other Dream Theater album that I'm extensively familiar with. I've listened to their entire discography before. That was my project last summer while I was learning how to do like my logs and stuff at work. Is I would the entire time I spent like 2 weeks going through their entire discography and listening to it. And
that and King Lizard or whatever.
Yeah, I was also listening to a lot of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
That was it, yeah.
Last summer.
King Gizzard.
But yeah, like Metropolis is the only other one that I'm extensively familiar with. And being someone that is not super well versed in prog rock in general, that's my main reference point. Because it's like, what else do you really compare Dream Theater to? Dream Theater is Dream Theater.
Right.
What else can you say? And then the other comparison you can make is Dream Theater with Mike and Dream Theater without Mike. The first Mike, anyway.
Yeah.
It's strange to me they've had two drummers named Mike.
Okay, we can get a new drummer, but keep in mind, he has to be a Mike.
He has to be named Mike. Or else it won't work.
So we got a new drummer named Bill. Hey, Mike! Ah, shit.
Fuck! I do think it's kind of weird because I remember seeing the video of them recording the lead single off of their new album. Mike Mangini does all of his cymbals way up. They're mounted like above his head.
Sure. And
he goes up there to play that, and that it does not look natural. I don't like it.
It's like the dudes on the motorcycle with the ridiculous ape hangers.
Yeah, the really, really high bars.
Why is that way up there? I mean,
it's like, how long are you going to be driving that for? That cannot be comfortable. To have your hands all the way up there the whole time.
Right.
They're just trying to show off how big their arms are. I don't know. But yeah, that's 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. There's a lot more detail that we could go into, but then this podcast would be
very noodly.
Yeah, it would be as long as the album. So let's not do that.
No.
And instead talk about what we're going to be doing next week.
What are we doing next week?
Yeah, it's your week next week. What are we
it's
doing?
my week next week. Your turn to buy the beer. By the way, this week, Deschutes Black Butt Porter.
Yeah, I like this. It's Black Butte.
Oh, Black Butte.
I like this quite a bit. I'm not typically a big fan of porters, but this is pretty good stuff.
Yeah, it's very mild. Speaking of black,
Okay.
next week I want to do the album, the one I used to mow the lawn to all the time.
Okay.
I seem to listen to music and do other activities.
Yeah,
I do that a lot.
I mean,
Why not?
It's a normal thing to be doing.
Into the Mirror Black.
Into the Mirror Black.
Yeah.
By whom?
Sanctuary.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of album is it?
It's like thrash metal, but
Okay.
they put more meat in there.
A little bit more meat in the bones.
Yeah, there's some meat in there, and it's of course the late World Dane is their singer, and yeah, he was one of my favorite singers.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm excited to get into that next week.
All right.
I don't know why I'm suddenly slowly kind of turning into Jimmy Stewart here. Oh, wow. Like all this thrash metal.
Then you became Owen Wilson there for a moment.
Wow. Well, I think, on a certain level, Jimmy Stewart and Owen Wilson are fairly, they kind of have a similar voice. I could see Owen Wilson like doing a Jimmy Stewart impression for like an SNL skit. It's like Owen Wilson's version of fuck, what?
Yeah, a Christmas.
The Christmas movie.
Why?
Good Lord. Why? It's a Wonderful Life. Jesus
Wonderful
fucking
Life.
Christ.
My savings and loan.
Yeah. I love that movie though. It's good. I like It's a Wonderful Life. Well, Mr. Potter, what about all the people?
Every time I watch it, I mean, even as a child, I just wanted Jimmy Stewart to go, "Oh, what the fuck?"
You got me while I had beer. That was almost a spit take all over my window.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. That would have been hilarious, but I didn't let it happen. Oh, that would be funny though. Okay, so next week is
Sanctuary's Into the Mirror Black.
Thank you. All right. If you enjoy this sort of thing, please check us out on our social media pages on Twitter and Facebook. We always post links to new episodes. I'm just still picturing Jimmy Stewart saying "What the fuck." But we always post links to new episodes on those platforms, so you can always find them there and get your notifications or whatever when they're out. You can also, of course, if you're a iOS user, subscribe to us on your podcast app, whatever it is you have now and whatever it is you will have in the future.
We'll be there.
Yeah, I think that I don't know if I have to change that RSS feed. I imagine they're going to do some sort of transition.
They'll make it easy. They know what they're doing.
I got to check the podcast email to see if Apple has sent me something that was like, your RSS thing is no longer valid or some shit like that.
They would do that. They would have to do that to everybody.
If my sister is no longer able to get this podcast on her phone, she'll let me know.
Okay.
Yeah, so check us out on there. You'll get your updates and whatnot. Also, I'd like to say it's very good to be back.
Yeah.
Last week was really tiring, but it was I almost regretted not doing the podcast just because I love doing this every week. So
I look forward to it.
I'm happy to be back here, and we'll be back next week with a little bit more for you. In the meantime, you've made it to the end of another episode of the Bronze Metalist Podcast. I'm Cale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations. You came in late on that one. That's okay.
Jesus Christ, Mr. Potter!
Oh, fuck! Instant Great Depression, Mr. Potter! Oh, fucking shit!
I'm gonna fucking kill myself!